when we look at these things, we must look out for wisdom. We must therefore reflect. Where do we get back our source of inspiration? You know? For me, this itself is part of the peace negotiation. This itself is part of the peace process. This is the part of reconstituting ourselves, reconstructing ourselves to regain back the paradise. And that is where we see this immense potential, immense prospects as well. Yet, the immense challenges that we see. You know? So, when we look out for this wisdom, for example, let me tell you from our own Naga wisdom, for example, from my own community, a story that has inspired me ever since I was told a story by my mother when I was very young. You know? This is the story of Singdaiman Singla. You know? There was a couple that used to live in this foothill of a mountain. One year their cotton field did not burst open. So they are going to suffer. So the parents, what happened? What did they do? They prayed to the spirit, and then they said that if you can burst open the cotton field for us again, then we will give you our child that is yet to be born. Yes? And then the cotton field burst open. And the child also was born. But the child was so brilliant in terms of wit and skills. Yes? So she was well known everywhere. And she is said to be the one that has invented this art of weaving among the temples. And has inspired this creation and innovation throughout the temple community. Yes? So the parents immediately regretted the vow that they made to the spirit. So this enraged the spirit. So the spirit took the form of a deer and kept visiting the farm. And therefore the father was enchanted, and the father started chasing this deer and took him to a very far away place. And he reached a place where a tarn, you know, tarn of strong. This is a mythical place. Tarn is, I don't know if you know, it's like a body of water, like a lake formed within, like in the mountains. So he went there, and when he reached there, he was already tired with thirst and hunger, and he was at the end of his strength. So when he bent down to drink the water, the spirit parched the tarn, so it was dry. So he could not drink it. So out of that weakness, again he promised to give back his daughter to the spirit, because he knew that it was a spirit that was playing on him. So the water reappeared, he drank it, and he went back. When he went back, the daughter came back with a bowl of water, something with a bowl. But before he could realize, she fell at his feet and she was swallowed by the earth. You know? So the spirit took the daughter. So what is this story saying? Is that in life we will face hardship. Life is essentially about facing challenges. And without being able to face challenges, without that preparedness, you will not survive. That is what the story is saying. The interesting part of the story is also that if you do not learn your lesson, then it is passed on to the future and it is repeated. And that is where the story of the father going for hunting. And in our story, hunting is a symbolic representation of aiming for something. You have to learn to throw the spear, to aim and hit the target, and you have to master this art. Otherwise, you can never hit the aim and achieve the goal. Yes. So it is about this kind of struggle and mastering this. So it is not about chasing for happiness in life, but it is about chasing and looking in search of meaning in life that leads you towards your goal and your aim. You see. So it is at your weakest moment that you may be tempted, we may be tempted, and that is where we lose everything. That may be the most precious to us, but this is what the story is telling us. Yes? So these are the kind of things. And look at the story of, for example, also of Jonah. I don't know the full story because I'm not a theologian, but he was asked to go to a place where he was fully corrupted. Right? The society was corrupted. And he said, I cannot go there. So he jumped into a boat and went in a different direction. Then they were faced with a stormy sea. Yes? Then Jonah realizes that it is because he disobeyed God. And therefore they agreed, they discussed, and then he was thrown into the sea. And he was fine. Then Jonah was swallowed by the whale. This is a very interesting part of the story. Right? For 3 days he was in the belly of the whale. He was swallowed in chaos because he did not follow what he's supposed to do. What he knew is the right thing. He disobeyed what is the truth and the right thing to do. So in the midst of the chaos, he struggled and he somehow manages it, tried to rise above it. Maybe he prayed, he meditated, and he understood. So if you're fortunate enough in life, maybe you have a second chance. And that's what he did. You know? So this is this kind of this chaotic situation under which we must go through, out of which we must rise again. And these are the stories. And we have to look sometimes at the most unlikely place. If things is not working for us now here, then we have to look somewhere else, and it may be in the most unlikely place. It may be in the darkest place. And often the story tells us about these things that you have to venture. You have to have the courage, you have to have the determination. And that is what the story of King Arthur is telling us here. The knights sit around the table and discussing and representing somewhat that all are equals, the round table, the conception that we even have today. Yeah. So they went to look for this Holy Grail. They decided to look for it, which is the ultimate thing. So where did they go looking for the Holy Grail? They went looking for it in the darkest of the darkest forest. So what does that represent? It means that sometimes you have to look at the unknown, and that is the challenge that you have to face in life. Otherwise, we may not find it. You see, these are the challenges, something like that we are facing today. So now let's look at the framework again. I think the most fundamental thing that we have to understand is this whole concept of sovereignty. Where does it come from? It was associated with kings in the past, as you know, because it was understood that he has the right that is coming from God without being subjected to any earthly authority. That was the conception. Yes. Now look at the biblical conception of this equality of everyone. That everyone is equal, and that sovereignty lies with the individual. And this is a discovery of a very potent in nature. It's something like the Big Bang. The moment that we began to realize this, it spread light everywhere. It was enlightenment. And it also showed us this whole chaotic potential that can be ordered into something that is habitable and creativity. So it means lighting up our inner self, our consciousness, lighting up every dark corners of our lives. So it is so powerful that it even went on, for example, to remove the shackles of slavery and so on. That has been one of the driving force in the political discourse as well. And this is where it is coming from. And this is also the conception where we begin to see that every individual is endowed with a transcendental value. Yes? And therefore with a spark of divinity in every human being. And this is what is captured in the Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. You see? The equality in dignity comes from this articulation and understanding of the sovereignness of individuals. Yeah. So, along with this, what is this dignity and what is this sovereignty of this individual? Yes. In Christianity terms, the word, when we say in the Genesis, if you look at it, this is associated with consciousness, and is also associated with the mechanism that transforms the world. How does this work out? So the word is also understood as the logos in political terms. Yes. So the logos is universally distributed and is localized everywhere. That means universal means that it is distributed everywhere and it is available and accessible to everyone. It is not confined to an authority or or a power. But every individual has access to it. This is the kind of conception of sovereignty that came to be played out. And that's how all this Universal Declaration and Universal Human Rights Standards emerged. It was basically fundamentally built on this premise. And the